previous capsule, I talked about majoring in the minors, which basically means that the little isolation exercise become the cornerstone of your program instead of the big basic movements. Well, you have the equivalent in the world of strength and conditioning coaching, which is the overly specific strength coach. The coach who tries to mimic every sporting action in the gym. And the typical behavior of these coaches, they actually almost don't do the big basics. They don't do the heavy back squat. They don't do heavy deadlift or hip hinge. They don't do loaded carries. They rarely do heavy bench pressing. Instead doing variation of the sporting action with dumbbells. Or they're doing like lunges in all kind of directions. They're trying to copy the sporting action in the gym. And if an exercise is not seen as specific enough, they don't use it. Well, that is probably just about the dumbest shit you can do as a strength coach, especially when dealing with younger athletes, okay? First of all, understand that all strength training is general. Specific is on the field. What you're trying to do as a strength coach is make an athlete as balanced as possible, as strong on the big basic movements as possible, as resilient as possible, and having the proper energy system for their sport. Basically, you make that the best human being you can, then you take that enhanced body and you make them practice their sport activities, so now they can take those enhanced physical capacities and learn to use it in their sport. As we saw in the shadow boxing capsule, overloading sport movement can actually lead to faulty motor learning and confusion motor pattern because you will lose speed in the movement. Mel Siff, the late Mel Siff, mentioned that specificity that is excessive, so a movement that is too similar to the actual sporting action but under load, can actually be detrimental to the performance of that skill if the speed of movement is decreased by more than 10%, or if there is just enough of a bad motor habit to confuse the nervous system when doing the main movement pattern. So what you do as a strength coach, you want to make the athlete as strong as possible in the basic movement pattern. Squat, hinge, unilateral lower body, vertical press, vertical pull, horizontal pull. And of course, you can be more specific in some phases by working more the specific position you need in your sports, for example. So for example, if I'm a linebacker, that is my position, then I want to be really strong in that position. So in the later phase of training with advanced athletes, I might use exercises from that position. So quarter squats, half squats, very heavy partial deadlift, power cleans from the hang. But then again, they only emphasize key ranges of motion. They don't try to duplicate sport action. Now, I really believe that many coaches resort to these overly specific patterns either because they suck at making you strong, okay, or they suck at improving muscle mass, and they need something to sell themselves as a coach. And is especially effective when working with kids, because kids don't know better, so their parents who don't know about training, they look, I'm going to be doing side to side, I'm going to do Bosu ball squats, because it is very specific. It will make your athlete a lot more stable. Imagine if you can squat in a Bosu ball, how strong your linebacker will be on the ground, right? Well, it's bullshit. You never play on a Swiss ball. You never play on a Bosu ball, okay? It's just something that coaches who don't know how to get people strong use to make themselves look novel, make themselves more innovative in the eyes of the parents. Well, maybe some of these methods can be useful, like the very specific methods, once the athlete is already maxed out in the basic physical capacity, strength, power, speed, on the big basic movement pattern, hinge, squat, press, pull, unilateral. When an athlete is maxed out on these movements, strength and power-wise, then maybe he can move to the more sport-specific exercises because he already has acquired all the gains he can from the big basics, okay? But if an athlete does sports practices, he's already doing sport-specific work. What he needs is just to make his body overall stronger, more powerful, and then when he does the sport-specific drills, he will learn to use that increased capacity. So it's like, for example, if I'm driving a car, well, if I'm used to driving on the Civic, just increasing the horsepower, giving myself a Mustang, once I learn to drive that Mustang, I will be a much better driver, much better performance. Same thing. In the gym, I turn my body from a Civic to a Mustang, from a Mustang to a F1 racing car, okay? Doesn't require sport-specific, require that I maximize strength, maximize power, maximize or optimize range of motion. Then I learn to apply these enhanced capacity on the field. Only when there's nowhere left to go, strength and power-wise on the big basics, can I benefit from maybe a little bit of sports-specific work. But most of the stuff you should be doing is general to make you overall better athlete, better body in the gym.